ING Hub, gazda noastră de astăzi. Stați așa că e transmisie în direct. Trebuie să așteptăm semnalul. Cu ajutorul nostru am cucerit Dâmbovița, tot cu ajutorul vostru, o să o și schimbăm. Și ne-am adunat astăzi aici exact pentru un pas, zic eu, important, și anume de a pune, să zic, în forumul public idei de cum poate să arate Dâmbovița dincolo de ce oferă ea în momentul ăsta. Și vă mulțumesc frumos că ați venit aici cu toții, participanți, unii o să fiți premiați. Alții sunteți, oricum, intrați într-o lume a celor care sunt preocupați de Dâmboviță și o să ne mai întâlnim. Munca voastră n-a fost doar așa un exercițiu. Și am să invit pe cei doi parteneri, colegi, arhitecții. Tamina, te rog.
Bună ziua, mă bucur să revăd mulți prieteni și cunoscuți. Cred că rolul meu, în general, e să amintesc și ceea ce lucrăm pentru Dâmbovița. Vin tocmai de la Convenția M100, unde am prezentat în fața unui amfiteatru întreg reușitele noastre de anul acesta. Merită spuse, merită vorbit despre impactul în oraș asupra comunităților pe care le urmărim. Și anume că în contextul încălzirii și a insulelor de căldură, Dâmbovița, coridor verde-albastru care răcorește orașul, este strategia, litere mari, cea mai eficientă pentru reziliență climatică, pentru că, după cum povestim de fiecare dată, luciul de apă și spațiile verzi umbrite în jurul, adiacente râului, au capacitatea de a umbri zonele adiacente, de a răci zonele adiacente cu până la 5 grade. În contextul poluării, povestesc toate lucrurile astea, da? În contextul poluării din oraș, Dâmbovița este un mare contributor la reducerea poluării deja, pentru că poate nu mulți știți, dar și în prezent, mâlul de pe cuva de beton a râului este, de fapt, praful colectat din aer, din București. Mai mult, într-un viitor posibil și curajos, în care traficul de tranzit se reduce consistent pe o parte și pe cealaltă a râului, vom avea considerabil mai puțină poluare a aerului și fonică în oraș. Asta este una din cheile pentru o calitate mai bună a vieții. Deci noi vorbim tot timpul despre malurile Dâmboviței renaturalizate în funcție de segment și de caz. Protejarea, restaurarea și valorificarea vegetației existente. Extinderea și multiplicarea spațiilor verzi din vecinătatea râului. Și acum menționez și celelalte planuri pe care lucrăm de ceva timp. Lucrăm la reconectarea comunității urbane cu râul și creșterea atractivității râului. Am făcut primii pași pentru scalarea impactului proiectelor noastre prin parteneriatul strâns între Nod Makerspace, Asociația Ivan Pațachin, acum și cu Ordinul Arhitecților București, cu sprijinul Platformei de Mediu pentru București, Fundația Comunitară și ANG România. Am realizat anul acesta primul nivel de accesibilizare, de democratizare a accesului la apă, respectiv 3 intervenții de acupunctură urbană, 3 accese la apă la Timpuri Noi, Națiunile Unite și Operă. Bineînțeles, având în spate procese de consultare, co-creație și implicarea comunității în implementare. Am mai început un Living Lab, un proiect pilot de măsurare a sănătății, de ponton inteligent pentru măsurarea sănătății râului la Operă, cu Smart Pictures, și am pornit o comunicare științifică pentru publicul larg. De asemenea, avem de-a lungul râului 3 bariere plutitoare de colectare a deșeurilor, pe care le colectăm cu custozii de râu. Avem 2 custozi de râu desemnați, foarte apropiați, și împreună cu comunitatea. Avem anul acesta și o flotilă de bărci, niște canoe superbe, cu care custozii fac plimbări gratuite cu publicul larg pe râul. Și ce am mai reușit anul acesta a fost să organizăm 3 evenimente manifest. În timp ce în anii trecuți organizam doar unul, am avut 3 evenimente manifest Dâmbovița Delivery cu pietonalizarea malurilor pe diverse segmente. Astfel testăm și înțelegem cum poate funcționa reducerea și oprirea traficului pe segmentele respective. Și nu în ultimul rând, suntem aici pentru acest concurs magnific de idei și îl las mai departe pe Emil să povestească despre el. Mulțumesc!
Mulțumesc mult, Amina. E un moment foarte special, pentru că acum, fix, cred că 2 sau 3 ani, în același loc, tot în cadrul anualei, mai sus, așa, gata, mulțumim. E un moment special pentru că tot în cadrul anualei de arhitectură, pe vremea aceea era nu București estetic, ci București inclusiv, aici am făcut prima conferință din România, Arhitectură și Inclusivitate. A fost un juriu internațional, au fost oameni top. De fapt, Dâmbovița e inclusiv în această politică și trebuie să facem un efort foarte mare, din păcate, ca să convingem toate autoritățile și așa mai departe. Efortul pe care dumneavoastră l-ați făcut acum este acest efort, pentru că apelul de idei, acesta este obiectivul lui de a convinge publicul general, de a convinge politicul, de a convinge chiar și societatea civilă de cât de mult se poate transforma Dâmbovița. Și ne bucurăm foarte mult pentru că 27 de proiecte au venit în acest context. De fapt, toate proiectele trebuie onorate. Într-adevăr, unele, iată, vor fi un pic mai mult onorate față de celelalte. Și în contextul ăsta, chiar discutam, vreau să vă fac un anunț. Pe 4 decembrie, adică joia viitoare, deschidem un spațiu nou pentru Oare București, o galerie, la Amzei, în clădirea Amzei, la parter, unde va fi o zonă foarte mare culturală. Va fi o zonă de forum, dezbateri despre oraș, arhitectură și așa mai departe. Și acolo o să facem o expoziție cu toate proiectele, de unde vor porni în oraș, așa cum de altfel scrie. Vreau să mulțumesc partenerilor, noi am mai colaborat. Tamina a spus anul acesta toate eforturile care s-au făcut pentru Dâmbovița. În anii trecuți, noi am făcut împreună și cu administrațiile din București cel mai mare grup de lucru de la PMB. Era pentru Dâmbovița. Într-un fel, ăsta e rezultatul acestui efort și vă mulțumim foarte mult că ați intrat în acest demers. Toate proiectele au fost extrem de bune și toate proiectele vor fi onorate și expuse mai departe. Vă mulțumim foarte mult!
Să știți că arhitectura totdeauna e legată și de oameni, nu doar de spațiu, de partea frumoasă a unui spațiu, și proiectul nostru, Dâmbovița Apă Dulce, pe lângă partea de infrastructură, să zic așa, noi spunem de hardware, avem și o componentă de software. Și anume ne propunem ca, odată cu construcția acestui proiect, să construim pentru prima dată, să fie un proces participativ și să încercăm să adunăm resursele care sunt, nu întâmplător, dar ele sunt în jurul Dâmboviței, și anume cea mai mare densitate sau aglomerare de studenți, universități, centre de cercetare din România există în jurul Dâmboviței. Și lucrul ăsta ne-a motivat pe noi să ne gândim că există un potențial acolo de clusterizare a acestei resurse creative, care nu este doar a Bucureștiului, ci putem să spunem că este o resursă creativă la nivel de România și, de ce nu, internațională. Și aici mă bucur foarte tare că avem alături de noi olandezii, care sunt gazdele și suportul nostru, francezii, cu Institutul francez și cu arhitect și cu un artist, și Anglia, care, mă rog, au făcut greșeala aia cu Brexit și ei recunosc. Dar sunt la fel de importanți pentru noi și nu în ultimul rând, Ivana Bațaichi, l-ați văzut pe Ivan acolo, care a fost unul dintre motoarele acestui proiect al nostru. Să invităm olandezii, zic eu. Doamna Mihai, de la ING Bank.
Da, ING Bank România. O să trec în engleză, doar ca să ne înțeleagă și toți speakerii noștri externi. Deci, hello everyone, so good to see you and have you here today. From our side, we're very proud to be here, both as a partner, but also, I would say, like as people that truly believe in what Amina and Doro were talking about. I'm personally from Bucharest, so I was born and raised in Bucharest, and I cannot tell you how many times I actually believe we can do so much more about Dâmbovița as a river. So I think that together, and today, like that journey begins. And I'm really hopeful that in a few years we'll also be here in this room and actually celebrate some of the projects that you're now seeing on the smaller screens. Also, it's my great pleasure to actually welcome here Wilhelmine van Haften, Her Excellency, the Ambassador of the Kingdom of Netherlands to Romania. Her presence here really for us sets the tone in terms of the importance of today. And today being a key milestone in terms of urban regeneration, but also sustainable development. That's something we really believe in at ING, and whenever we talk with our sustainability team, they always tell us sustainability, it's not a buzzword, it's not a concept that we just put on slides. It's something that we really want to make happen, and we really believe that also financial institutions play a key part in actually making a healthier and a greener planet, and a healthier and greener community in the case of Bucharest. Also a special thanks to our partners at the Environmental Platform for Bucharest. They have a great vision, and I think we can do great things together. With that being said, I'll let Her Excellency tell you more about the project and about why she believes this is really a key milestone for us.
Thank you. Actually, as the ambassador of the Netherlands to Bucharest, you said it all. Exactly. And this is why I think ING and ING is a private company who is actually, you're actually a Romanian private company, ING Romania. But as the government of the Netherlands, we also are always and very much pushing for projects that make our world a better place to live in, actually. Sustainability is no longer something of choice, it's really an absolute necessity. And we've seen various developments. We've just had the big conference of parties in Brazil, in Belém, and some people say, well, you know, the outcomes could have been better, which I think we also believe a little bit is true. But we also think that we in Europe, we can lead by example. And that is something that governments alone can never manage to do. So we need civil society, we need private sector, we need great minds to think alike, and we also need Europe to unite a little bit on this topic. So this is great. Everybody's here. The French are here, the Romanians are here, the Dutch are here, the Brits are here. Fantastic. And we have this beautiful river to work with, Dâmbovița, which is, well, I mean, as I have been living in Bucharest for 2 years now, the river has also really hit me in my heart and my soul and my stomach, so I'm very proud.
Potential as well.
There is a lot of potential there, yes, there is a lot of potential there. And I think I want to thank everybody here today who has done already all this great thinking on things that could be done. And I just want all of you to know that the Embassy of the Netherlands is your partner in this. We are there to help, to support, to make contacts, to help further possibilities. So anytime. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And of course, we know very well the Dutch experts are very good in dealing with water. So this is one of the reasons why we expect to exchange with the water experts more and more. Now, we have 5 wonderful presentations. So I invite the speakers to take these special chairs. Peter, Remy, Victor, Fezi, please. Clemence, where are you? Huh? Okay. So we will start with Bogdan Fezi. He is the first speaker. He made a very interesting presentation about the history of... wow. Wow, this was... Okay. So, Fezi, please.
Are we supposed to do it in English or Romanian?
Yes.
Or French? That's French, but it will be very difficult. 3 languages at the same time. So it will be very difficult after Excellency, which was very fast and rhythm and optimistic. We'll try to do the same thing if we have to. So it's a kind of historical presentation about Dâmbovița, which apparently we know, but we don't know very well. This is Dâmbovița today. Probably we don't like it too much, but we know that we can do better. And how can we do better? And of course, we have this great opportunities and actions which we all love about the Dâmbovița apă dulce, sweet water. And those are some views of Bucharest 2 centuries ago. And usually in those views we have the river, the cities, some churches, but the river is always there, so it's important. And the same kind of representation. And also we're talking about Dâmbovița apă dulce, Cintepea nu se mai duce. Anton Maria del Chiaro said the water indeed is good and sweet. Amedeo Preziosi painted these images. Only at the end of the 19th century, Jean Lauvergnat said it's true that probably Dâmbovița had a good water and it was sweet, but probably it's a metaphoric point of view which is more about women in Bucharest and not about water. That was the French opinion, and probably the French opinion stays the same, I think. So something had to be done. We have the same kind of images of Bucharest, this time with houses and bridges and animals, and photographs from the second half of the 19th century, and it has nothing to do with what happened afterwards and what's now. So we have to imagine that the river was a main source for drinking water. In the river, we were throwing the water away. On the banks on the river, we had the small industry. So we were cutting meat, we were throwing blood in the river, and we were drinking water. It was important for everything. So this is the kind of images we had, and as probably we may expect, because of the density of buildings near the river, we had this. So the river, 3 times per century, could flood the entire south of Bucharest. So what we know of Parcul Carol, Câmpia Filaret, was flooded 3 times per century. It was a disaster. This is a Prince Cuza inspecting the floods. So what can we do? It's quite simple, but very difficult. Here you see a cross-section through the river, and the bed of the river was lowered by 6 meters. So it's about this height, lower. And on several kilometers, so here you see the entire river was lowered by 6 meters, and there are almost no parts of the present river which are identical to the last one, to the previous one. Probably Hanul Manuk, it's one of the buildings which was on the banks of the river, the others not. So you have at the same time an hydraulical operation lowering the river. It's a breakthrough, a new boulevard, une opération haussmannienne. So you have to expropriate all these owners, and Bucharest has a kind of boulevard, un grand croisé like in Paris, which is precisely half the size of Paris, but this one exceeds all the breakthroughs in Europe. So it was done by hand. It was done with simple methods like this, and the law was passed in 1878, and the work started in 1880s, and they were almost finished, the most important parts, 3 years later. And is it possible? Yes, it's possible. Does it cost a lot? Yes. It was 4 times the entire budget of the city per 1 year. So could we imagine now paying something like 15 billions for Dâmbovița? No, it's impossible. But at the time they did it. They had to. So those are images, and this is what happened afterwards. You have in the center of the image the Justice Palace, le Palais de Justice, French architect Balu with Ion Mincu, and the opposite directions. As you can notice, it was not precast concrete, it was grass on both sides. Another image. This is towards the center, Hal Leonidi. On the left, they were demolished. They were built after the French model in Paris, demolished them too. This is a short list of how international it was. It's true they are most French, Flachat, Martion, etc. But it was at the top level. You have the chief inspector from Pont et Chaussée, the director of École Polytechnique de Paris, Swiss experts, and the project is made by Grigore Cerchez, Romanian architect and engineer. What's interesting, was it good, was it not good? Which was the international level? This is in 1939, the International Water Exhibition in Liège, and Bucharest had the gold medal for the hydraulic works on Dâmbovița, etc. And the big prize, the Grand Prix, for urbanism was. This is 1939. Unfortunately, the war started during the so everything was not really published afterwards. So this is water. How was it possible? Well, here you see a list of breakthroughs in Bucharest. It was possible with also international contest is what we're doing now. So contests and ideas are very important. This is 1906 contest, the first urbanism international contest in Bucharest, which is 2 years before Berlin, 13 years before Paris, and the second prize in Bucharest was the first prize in Berlin, and he worked in Barcelona. It was very international. This is very good to have, as we have today, an international jury and experts. 1906, it was Parcul Carol, the Charles Park, and the international exhibition, and this part of the city was flooded before, but not longer. And as with every contest, it's not immediately realized. It was the 1921 and the 1935 master plans of Bucharest, and in 1934, in the preliminary conference of International Union of Cities, you have New York, Paris, everybody, what they say that among France, we have to cite Romania, the only country in Europe that tries to make a real scientific urbanism. So this was the level in 1934, 1935. During the communist period, the same plan, as you see, for Bucharest with ring roads was followed. Unfortunately, during Ceausescu period, the ring system and the radial system we're talking now was completely erased, and he started not only to demolish, but also to change the structure of the city. You have those images with churches and the palace in the back, and now we have the palace and the church. Afterwards, it was important to do works again on the Dâmbovița from technical point of view, and also from the technical point of view, the works have important qualities. Unfortunately, as I once spoke to the chief engineer of the project, they had some proposals for Dâmbovița, which were kind of what we're doing for the contest now, which was lakes, which was green spaces, a kind of the river Colentina, which are the lakes Herăstrău, etc. They wanted for the Dâmbovița, but the president opposed to it because people could gather and be together. It was too much social. And this one is Dâmbovița. Is Dâmbovița nowadays, but something like 30-40 kilometers from Bucharest. Is Dâmbovița like the 19th century? The question is, and that is a question for the jury and for the competitors, what are we going to do with the Dâmbovița? Are we going to do this? Are we going to do this? We have ideas, we have to be contemporary. We have to bring these ideas to put them into a real project, a real contest. So what we know now is that Dâmbovița cere wow. We don't know exactly which is the wow, but as we did it before in the 19th and the 20th century, we hope we can do it again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Peter, you are the one. Peter Bishop is a long friend of us and Bucharest. We met him 20 years ago when we started the project in Rahova, and from that moment we met several times in several places, but he will tell us a little bit about what happened in London and in some other places, because he's a very globetrotter expert. Thank you, Peter.
Well, thank you. First of all, I'm delighted to be back in Bucharest. About 20 years, and I've seen the city transform. I think this project might be the next really big move the city makes to move forward yet again. It's been really impressive. Little Paris of the East. What's really impressive when you visit Bucharest is how green it is. The networks, the boulevards, the parks. In some ways, the river looks great in this picture, but it is a bit of a missing element. I think this project is a possibility to really pull the whole of the city together with its green landscapes through its blue. I was told not to show this. This is the removal of the urban motorway in Seoul. Very famous. Actually, it was a really brave project, but I think it makes a lot of mistakes, which we shouldn't be repeating here. It's hard, it's concrete. It doesn't engage naturally with the city. And if you walk through it in February, which I have done, you have hypothermia before you reach the end. So I think this was exciting at the time, but it's an example of how we could do something a lot better here in Bucharest. I think getting green networks right, it's a movement now across Europe where we're beginning to think about ecology and landscapes as being integral with city planning, and that ecologies can reinvigorate a city and make it a lot richer as a place to live. And that green networks and blue networks can knit neighbourhoods together. They can be linked in with city movement and patterns. They're multifunctional: nature, recreation, biodiversity, water management. They can respond very positively to climate change, to drop urban temperatures and urban heat islands. And actually, beautiful. They're beautiful things that we should enjoy as citizens. In many ways, I think what we do as architects, designers of the cities, we try and find space. We try and spot opportunities. This is a scheme I love. This is a practice called rebar in San Francisco. The idea is simple. If you get up early, put enough money in the parking meter, you could park your car there for a day, or you could make a park. And I love this as quite a subversive idea, but it's about how we value space and how we use it in the city. And a lot of schemes I've been involved in is taking spaces like this, forgotten spaces, making them into gardens, car parks into civic spaces. And some of these rather dull bits of civic space that we've rather kind of lost interest in, by pulling together some of them, by closing roads, we could produce new landscapes. I think there's an opportunity here in this project to imagine and find the spaces that are missing and put the city back together again in a very small scale way that can be very radical. Talk a little bit about London. Actually, it's a very green city. There's a lot of green in there. And when I was working for the mayor, we became very interested in London's lost waterways. We have the Thames, we have a lot of other rivers, some of which have disappeared. We became interested in ways in which we could bring the countryside into the city and come up with landscape strategies and projects, sometimes 150 or 200 small projects, which together could start to transform parts of the city. This is East London. And in it, we would discover these lost rivers, which have been forgotten and have very little ecological value. Cut off from their neighbourhoods, used as places to get rid of things and to dump rubbish. Very similar to the images of Bucharest in the 19th century. The city starts to use its waterways as a way of getting rid of its garbage. And yet within it, really little interesting bits of ecology, which we can salvage and put together. So I suppose the biggest project we did in London was the Olympic Park. And those images I've just shown are all of the River Lee. That was the condition of the River Lee 25 years ago, when we made the decision to site the Olympics here on the waterway. And develop strategies to rediscover, to open up the waterway, to clean and decontaminate the land, to clean the water, and to start to build a network of new centres and pedestrian routes across the valley. And to open up and discover the valley, and then build the infrastructure of the Olympics above it, and then transform it into a park. And it'd take a long lecture to show this, but the interesting design work on this was at each stage we pulled the park wider. We made the park bigger, and we thought about how we integrated it laterally into its communities and how it could become part of an integrated master plan. And this is the park on the day we opened the London Olympics. You can see that we've established a park as an urban park. We've broadened it out and we've connected it. And we've tried to give access down to the river, tried to allow people to touch the river and enjoy it. And after that, we said, well, we've done one bit. We became interested in how we then extended those links along the river. This is a small project we did. The Olympic Park is right there at the top. And between the Olympic Park and the Thames, we had old industrial areas. And we commissioned a practice called Fifth Studio to come up with a river walk. And they called this the Fat Walk. The Fat Walk was never less than 4 meters wide, but connected the spaces. So the experience was you'd walk through this piece of city and open up into new parks and public spaces, which existed but which hadn't been connected. All we did was to connect them. And connect them into new landscapes. A river park with connection, with clean water, with ecology and biodiversity. And a place that people could enjoy as an extension. The Olympic Park in London, I think, is a good park, but it only works ecologically if it's connected to the rest of the ecology of the city. And very, very simple interventions. This used to be a rough area of farm grazing, became a reed bank, we gave public access. So that's London. I'm going to show just a few examples across the world of other examples of greening and opening up rivers. And this is Sponge City. Sponge City was an interesting idea. I think it came about in China about 20 years ago. This idea of urban drainage, hugely influential in China, in Chinese cities. And suddenly the city parks become not just places of recreation and biodiversity, but also ecological and environmental areas to regulate water, rainfall and rivers. So this idea of multifunctional space. And in London we've thought about spaces and how they work together, and increasingly how we then extend our thinking outside the city boundaries. Politically very difficult to do, but a city's landscape only works if you can integrate it with its regions and the areas that surround it. And then within it, how you use water for recreation. This is a reservoir, but we use it for sailing and for water sports. The Isar River Park in Munich, a fantastic resource as part of the city, in the city centre. Munich's beach. Louisville Waterfront, a scheme by Hargreaves, American architects firm that also worked on the Olympics. This idea how you take a waterfront and then how you green it, how you make it a softer edge in the city, how you put in formal elements, formal design elements, how you link it in with cycling, how you link it in with changes in water level. But critically, trying to find the spaces where you can touch the water. I think one of the big problems with dock developments around the world is you might have 3 or 4 meters between the side and the water. If you've got kids, like an adult, actually, you want to put your feet in the water, you want to touch the water, you want to feed birds, you want to play on it, you want to be on a boat. So those moments where you touch the water are key. And in China, the Haihe River Ribbon Park in Tianjin, another great example of a huge investment from the city to reconnect the river with the city centre, with the downtown area. And think about it as a formal park, which also makes the lateral and the north-south routes through the city a lot more effective. And of course, Paris Plage. In London, by the way, we're really envious of Paris. We spent a lot of time in Paris trying to copy what happened. This idea, you take a simple intervention. You close a major road for August, and Parisians have a beach to enjoy. You do very simple things. Temporary interventions can transform the way a city works. And then sort of really soft, small-scale interventions. This is in Malmo, where the water's brought into a residential community with very, very soft ecological edges as part of a far richer residential environment than you could otherwise have. And in London, there are many examples across this world. This is Sponge City in London, a park, but we've also opened up an area for sustainable drainage. And in doing this, we've removed flood risk from about 15,000 properties just from this one intervention. So conclusions, whole river solutions. You can't just deal with parts. Water flows through. You have to get the water quality, the water flows, the hydrology right. Natural path to the city, access to the water, be able to touch it. Linear and lateral movements. Think about how it connects with the landscapes, how you bring in leisure, how it can be fun. I love the word fun. Cities should be fun. We live in cities because we like to have fun. Beautiful and rich, but critically maintenance. And maybe that is probably where we start. And when I worked for the Mayor of London on public space programmes, we started off, the first question is, who's going to maintain it? How are they going to maintain it? And if you couldn't answer that, we didn't start designing. So how you maintain in the long term. That's it, thank you. My last slide, this is actually the Olympic Park in London, but what I like about this is when this was designed, we didn't design this. And I love this idea of, I think it's really serendipity, this chance, the way in which, if you provide a rich landscape, people will find ways to use it that a designer cannot. And what I look forward to is going back here in 10 or 15 years' time and finding somebody sitting here on your river in central Bucharest, enjoying it in a very, very simple way among a whole range of other use. So thank you, great project, and I wish you a huge amount of luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Now from London we go to Victor. Where?
Go to Harderwijk.
Okay, welcome.
It's pretty hard to come up with such a good story if you had such two good speakers in front of you. Especially love the historical story about the river and everything, because I think there's still a lot of wisdom in that history. It's also funny to see how we go always back to qualities of the past. And when you hear the story of Peter, then I think then we see that there are a lot of opportunities. And I want to also go back a bit to reality, because sometimes it looks and everything takes a lot of time. First of all, I try to keep my presentation short, because you're here, of course, all the amazing plans what you provide here for this competition. But I like also to show that everything takes time. And I go to Harderwijk, and in the beginning we had nothing to do with it, because it was a historical city at the water, and the city was on the formal Zuidige Zee, Southern Sea. It was a kind of inner sea in Holland. And nowadays it's land, it's polder, how it's called. The problems of floodings and everything like that, and the need of agriculture land force us to change that situation. But Harderwijk here, laying on the side here, Amsterdam over there. Basically, Harderwijk was a fisherman's village, and of course, they also had to change their approach a bit of how to survive in new circumstances. So nowadays, when you look to it was still 2007. You see now up here the new land is coming. here's still the old city, what was invest here nicely on the front of the sea, and they can build a nice aqua park with dolphins. Also not really fitting anymore in this period of time, but I will come back later to it. And yet the Natura 2000 situation, and it is something what people from Holland know that it is killing us at the moment, because everything what was nice and green, we applied it in Brussels to Natura 2000, and it means basically that you cannot touch it anymore, you cannot come close anymore. So there are some, it's complicated. And you have the connection between the old land and the new land. And so you want to do there something because there were problems. And I thought it is nice to show because this feels a bit like Bucharest. There are cars, there are a lot of cars. And so I think it also gives a bit of trust that still, I think every city almost in the entire world has the same problem. And you see here the nice historical city walls and cars and more cars. So that is what we can do with it. Because on the other side there are these old industrial complexes that are producing beton, concrete and asphalt and all that kind of materials. But there was also the factory of asbestos, I don't know exactly, it's pretty similar. And they had the big fields of where they had all the water from their production and all the fibers that were in, they were settled in this terrain. So it was a really dirty area. So this was also a competition, what was asked to the market, and they are searching basically for strong, big parties what can handle this situation, because it was a public-private work, so also the companies need to bring in money basically to start it, because it was impossible for the little city of Harderwijk to do it alone. And of course also because of the Natura 2000 we had to find places where the birds can stay and rest, because it was also part of it. So you see that you have to start the whole operation with moving things first. But first you have to move the nature, because that was an important element. So they were resting in front of the city normally, so their new spaces were needed where they can go. Now when you look then to the current situation, 2005 it was, the cars that you are seeing here, they were parked over here. Here you see the whole area with parked cars, and there you see the old industrial area, and here nicely the old city. So basically it started in steps, because you had to get rid of everything, because the companies were still functioning. They were still there, the big aqua park, so people also need to park somewhere to visit it. It was owned by a French company, so they also didn't want to get away because they rented it for I don't know how long. And so basically there were new things needed. So the industrial area was needed there as well. So with that, basically they were started by reclaiming a piece of land up here to move their companies to the other side. And they were searching actually for a place of parking. You see that the parking area is still here, because in the past the water was still here. Now it's parking, and Luna Park, and then the water is gone. So this was the start of the new industrial area. There was space to move the companies, because a lot of the companies needed to be connected to the water, because when you're producing concrete, you need of course sand, pebbles, and so on. But it was coming by water transport. And over that, to go back a bit, the future plan was actually this one. And I put this one in between because you see here the little island, because this big intervention was doing a lot for the city, and that's also it starts to annoy people because it's a project for more than 20 years. So then the municipality said, let's start with creating a beach for the city to make people again a bit happy. And we go back to the fun part that Peter was talking about, because when you have fun, you feel more chill and you can handle way more. So that basically they started with to do that. Because when you look 2 years later, we have already here the beach, all the parking area is still there. You see that here, in this area, slowly is starting to move, and up there they're also making a bit of new land. So the beach came first, because you need to chill your people, and to have basically a fun part in the city. You see that it was directly functioning pretty well. It was not even a restaurant or whatever, but people want this nice weather. They like to go to the water, but it was going pretty well. And now you see on the right upside, again, a new piece of land. And basically that was the area all the cars are moving in. And you see here that all the cars are gone and that there's new water. So basically the city is again on the water and the cars are gone. And so in steps, slowly the new area established. I took some pictures from Google to make it more visible. This was along the old city wall. Here we came there, to the other direction. And that will be here. So slowly you see that the project was coming alive and starting to develop. And by adding basically the houses, because you need something to pay all these, and that's also why, of course, the new development of houses were coming in. Little villages on the water, actually, basically in the Dutch traditional architecture. They were small scale, and the possibility of going by boat everywhere. This is the latest picture what I took from Google. You see that the houses are coming in here completely, the old industrial area. There you see the car park. You see that it is on the water again. So basically, in steps, it's getting developed. And you see now the last part, where we basically what we're more involved with, was this last parking area, and we transformed it into a park. And the lucky thing was that we had a winter. So we just created a park with the possibility that you can skate. And everybody was saying, yeah, you start to spend money on an ice track. Will never freeze anymore. And the same winter there was. So it was really add these pictures. And the last thing we did, because you cannot do everything at once in the right way, especially when you have to deal with water. And there was a beach, and it was called the beach island, but yeah, an island needs a bridge, and it was just a dam. So last year we added a bridge in between there, so then it really became an island. So 20 years after, we finally had the island. And now we're working on the next 20 years. We started with making a sketch of that dolphinarium, that dolphin park, because yeah, we cannot continue with that. That's very simple. And you need new ideas for the coming 20 years. So this one we are sketching nicely. We leaked it a bit to the press, so then slowly people start to talk about it. When people start to talk about it, there's a big chance that it's gonna happen. I think no one knows everything about that. So I just want to say that you go from a competition, takes a lot of time, then you start to work on something, and in the end, after more than 20 years, you start with the next vision, probably for the coming 20 years. So it takes time, but I think it's something beautiful you're working on, and looking forward to the next 20 years, what's happening with the Dâmboviței. Thanks.
Victor, our plan is for the next 10 years. So 20 years, it's a little bit too much in this moment. Okay. So we want to see some important steps in the next 2 years with the new mayor. We hope we have a smart mayor. And we have such an energy here, young architects. With this competition, our intention is to use this creativity, and why not to create in the next 3-4 months a new vision for Dâmbovița, which can be the base of competition, real competition, but assumed by the mayor and by the local administration. So now we are switched to our French partners, Remy, but somebody will introduce you, because we also receive support from the Cultural Center, French Cultural Center Institute. Okay, so please, you have the responsibility to how to present, and we will switch in French right now, no?
Thank you so much, Theodore. I'm Mélanie Martini, cultural attaché at Institut Français, And I realized that the French engineers have a responsibility in what happened to Dâmbovița. So I think we should make amend, and that's why we invited two experts from France to work with you. Thank you so much for giving us the space to participate in this wonderful project. We were thinking that water is life. It's life within our body, it's life outside, and there's no life without water. But the way rivers have been treated, and you showed it beautifully in your presentation, the way river has been treated is quite similar to the way we treated other natural elements and other living creatures so far. So what Rémi and Clémence are going to talk about is maybe a new way of looking at things. And looking at things is very important. It's also important to form new imaginaries and to use other words also to imagine a future that has yet to become. Rémi is the former head of the Loire mission. The Loire River is the river that crosses France and gets out in the ocean. Rémi works at Nantes Métropole, so it's the delta of the Loire River in a way. And Clémence is a landscape architect, paysagist, and an artist. And Clémence has not been part of the jury, so there were no women in the jury, as you noticed, unfortunately. We have one woman. Let's do better next time. And but we invited Clémence to be an observer and to look at the river from the point of view of the river. It's like to try to give a voice to the elements, the life that has no voice. I'm going to give the mic to Rémi. Thank you so much for coming, Rémi. And with the help of Claudia, we will translate for the ones who don't speak French. Merci.
Merci. Salut tuturor, vă mulțumesc pentru primire, atenție și amabilitate. Ladies and gentlemen, elected officials or in-officials, ladies and gentlemen, public, private sector professional, tech, ladies and gentlemen, member of association of volunteers, and all engaged citizens interested, simply concerned about their city and its river. It's also with a touch of shame that I must confess, but you heard it, that I cannot go any further in Romanian, not even in English, as I speak it too poorly. So sorry, friends, excuse me. Therefore, my word will be translated by Claudia. I thank her most warmly.
Hello. Yeah. Okay, I should read? Yeah. Okay, so I'll read Rémi's text. Do you have the PowerPoint or you just the introduction? Okay. I will offer you a two-part synthesis. First, a few words about the video produced for the Loire Public Conference in spring 2025. It illustrates how Nantes Métropole, under the leadership of Johanna Roland, President and Mayor, has embarked on a genuine reconciliation with the Loire River and its estuary. Nantes, located in southern Brittany, is a city of confluences. Several major rivers converge there, forming an ancient crossroads between land, river, and ocean. This unique geography has shaped its history and development. In the 20th century, the riverbed was dredged somewhere between 4 to 6 meters downstream to allow maritime vessels to travel upstream. And they traveled upstream to extract the sand needed for construction works. As a result, urban branches of the river had to be filled in, and the Apel de idei river was filled, diverted, and managed with the dam. Next, I will discuss 3 major factors that define Nan's approach, followed by 3 ideas that I will hope will inspire your own reflections. First, the video. Yeah, and in order to understand what we did, I should focus on three main areas, namely ecology, economy, and anthropology. The ecological reality meant we return to the river, and the river returns to us. First, the ecological reality. We once believed modernity allowed us to escape natural constraints. In truth, we remain deeply reliant on water ecosystems upstream and downstream. Thinking in terms of interdependence and acting with the awareness of what Grigorian Tipa called geonomy, in Nantes we realized that this reliance has become highly visible. Two climate-related threats were converging and still are converging. The risks of flooding and coastal submersion, and conversely droughts and that severely reduce the Loire's flow in summer. Moreover, in 2022, the salt level in the water, in the drinking water, was so high in the whole metropolitan area that we hardly avoided a water shortage. This reminded us a simple truth, that we are 65% water, and thus meant in our region 65% Loire. Then, the economic reality, that being the second factor that we included in our analysis and action. Choosing river uses wisely, namely the economic reality. Human uses can no longer be considered without assessing their impact on the health of the river and its ecosystem. We should find, and we must find, a clear adaptable balance to keep the environment livable for biodiversity and for us. In Nantes, progress has been made. The SAGE framework for water management at estuary level protects wetlands. New sectors have been emerging. River logistics, current-based energy, and decarbonized maritime transport. Landscape projects are becoming ecological, and they are being managed in an ecological manner. And then the anthropological reality, the power of imagination. The river is not just an environment, it's also collective imagination. Land art installations in the Estuary program, the voyage to Nantes, riverside cafes and promenade, all of this creates social bonds. 8 out of 10 tourist facilities are located by the water. This sensitive, almost emotional dimension is essential because it unites, it binds people. And then the ideas to moving forward. And we also have 3 ideas to move forward. Namely, the first one is that we have to work in the long term. And this is the question of time. Ecological transformations require long-term vision, a long 10-year vision. This is a horizon long enough, the 10-year vision is a horizon long enough to drive change, but at the same time close enough to mobilize and work holistically across all scales. And we see 3 stages. First of all, time of emergence and debate, that would be the first stage. Then the second stage, the time of structuring and early prototypes. And the third stage, the time of implementation with results. Then the second idea to move forward, giving citizens their rightful place. We need the citizens not just to passively accept projects, but to help the co-creation, to help co-create projects. And the residents always bring controversies that reveal key issues, emotional attachments, expertise in how they use the river and what the atmosphere is, vernacular knowledge, they contribute to participatory science, and they do have real energy to co-design, co-build, and co-implement actions. And without these very concrete, localized contributions, public policies remain either abstract or clumsy, or both. And then we also need to make amendments in the legislation to make it evolve, namely to recognize the river as a natural entity around the world, in the Americas, Oceania, Asia, and Europe. There have been more and more movements to recognize river as natural entities with their own rights and in their own rights, meaning they have, these entities have their interests that must be represented. In this context, the International Rivers Program at the Nantes Institute for Advanced Studies has been working for 3 years on the legal personality of the Loire and its estuary. This hybrid arts and sciences initiative is led by Camille de Toledo, orchestrator of the Parlement de Loire. And she's also coordinating author of The River That Wanted to Write. They set up a council of 12 witnesses, supported by scientists, witnesses, and in the sense of participants, supported by people who give testimonies, supported by scientists, and they developed proposals that grants the Loire and its estuary a natural and cultural identity, a hydrological body defined by its geography, rights and obligations, legal incarnation entrusted to 2 randomly selected guardians, and a non-exclusive right to take legal action. This work was presented at the National Assembly and the World Landscape Congress. A budgetary amendment proposed experimenting with human faces representing water waves and water agencies. And the conclusion? Yes. And to conclude, I'd like to share 3 insights. Your approach is exemplary in its ability to include. Your approach here is exemplary in its ability to include, listen, and make the transformation needed to restore your river sustainable. It is also inspiring in how it operates across scales, from local details to broader vision. And I believe you still have room to deepen ecology, hydrology, and biodiversity by expanding your focus to the entire river, from its spring to its meeting with the Danube. Finally, I invite you to consider, in your own terms and on your own terms, the recognition of the river as a full-fledged entity with the capacity for its embodiment. This international movement is gaining momentum and profoundly transforming how we govern our environments. And I will end now with a quote from an urban planner, Bernard Reichen. And the quote goes like this: "It is no longer enough to rebuild the city on the city. We must first learn to rebuild nature on the city." This sentence captures what we are experiencing today, a transition where ecology becomes both knowledge and practices.
It's your turn. You need to speed up.
Thank you.
Can I have the little...
Thank you.
Sorry in advance for my English. I'm gonna try to speak English, and Claudia is gonna help me if I need some vocabulary and stuff. So, I'm a landscape designer and artist, and I'm here to
make some drawings, a little investigation about what's going on with Dâmbovița river, what are what happens, what are all the activation that goes on now, and I'm gonna make a series of drawings that illustrate what's going on, and to have a document that everybody can share, and to something like that. So that's why I have been there this week, and it was a great week. So thank you. And so I'm gonna share a few projects that I've been doing around rivers and watershed, and with all kind of people and all kind of territories in France. And yes. So, as a landscape designer, I've been interested in rivers since my studies, because the water, the rivers are like the soul of landscape. It's the base that creates every landscape, every geomorphological structures. And as a landscape designer, I was asking myself, what can I do for rivers? And I was trying to answer this question with many tools, with many investigations. And one of the first one of my professional life was around the Loire Parliament that Rémi just told about in his presentation. So it's a meeting of different people around the Loire Valley, and the Loire estuary and the Loire mountains, because the Loire watershed is very big. It crosses all the France country, from the mountains through to the Atlantic Ocean. And those people were asking themselves, how can we create a juridical personality to the Loire, and what it's going to change in our way of making the cities, on the way we make agriculture, on the way that we make education. And so that's a very, very interesting project, because it reunites a lot of different people from different worlds. And I was more on the artistic part, cultural part of this project, around lots of events, a little bit like the events that you have here. And so yes, like rituals, like walkings around the river, and educational programs. So it's something that inspired a researcher and also urbanist people from collectivity and institutions. So that was an inspirational work to do. And since then, I've been working around rivers with a collective, artistic and activist collective, which is called Hydro World. And we are doing investigation around watershed. So that's a map. It's not we didn't make it, we didn't draw it, but it's a map that have been made by a geographical institution that is called. I don't remember its name. I'm gonna. They did this map all around the world. So that's the watershed around Europe. So you can see the Europe, but only through the water and the river. So I think it's a very powerful map. And so we are doing investigation on territories from the point of view of the water, to share with the inhabitants of the different territories what is the state of health of water. We are a multidisciplinary collective, so we ask this question through the point of view of landscape design, through the point of view of engineering, ecology, and those kind of discipline. So this is the example of a project that we made in the south of France, in the Uzès region. So it's on the Rhône watershed. So Uzès is a city that is near the river of the Les Gardons, and it is an affluent of the Rhône. So it's an area that is very dry. It has problems with water resources at this time. So all the inhabitants are very worried about how are we gonna drink clean water in the future? How are the landscapes gonna regenerate themselves? So we made this investigation around the state of health of the water, with drawings, with analysis of the landscape entities from the point of view of water, the link between the landscape parts, the geological parts, and all those drawings, all those analyses, we presented it on several villages, on wash houses that are now not being used by people, but we saw that it can be a place that people can reunite to talk about water like a ritual. And so we made little shows, little exhibition around water and create debate on all the villages of the territories. This is another project that we made on the Lake Geneva in Geneva. So the Lake Geneva is very interesting because it's like the water castle of Europe, kind of. And it crosses two countries, Switzerland and France. So the water institution in Geneva asked us to make an investigation around what are the faces of the Lake Geneva, what are the personality of this lake through the point of view of water, and how can we discuss with people about all those faces, how can we relate, how can we be connected. So these kind of drawings can try to share those information and questions. So we made exhibition and presentations, and yeah, this is like around the respiration of the lake, the different levels of life that are really disturbed by the climate change and by all the infrastructure on the lake. The link between forest and the lake, and how they have been destroyed through the time, and how the water is damaged by this destruction and by the lack of vegetation around the lake. And the connection from the glaciers and the lake, and the glaciers are melting, so it's gonna flow, but after that it's gonna dry, and there is connection with the lake and also with the Rhône. That is also there are a lot of steps from the lake through the agriculture, through the nuclear centrals. So there are a lot of new nodes that are very difficult to understand and to try to imagine what we can do to preserve all those kind of things that we created. So. And yes, also art. So the connection with traditional boats on the lake, and little rituals and parties around the lake. Yes. And this is a project that I made with the Normandy Architecture House and also other institutions and associations in Normandy that are gathering around the river Orne, that is a river that goes through inside the Manche Sea. So it's and they gather around to ask themselves, how can we reinhabitate this river? How can we share information from the top of the watershed through the estuary, and how can we be connected and make this river better? And yes. So I was part of this project to make a book about attachments of the inhabitants of the river. So I made a lot of workshop with inhabitants to ask themselves their walks, their cueillette, picking of flowers, of fruits, of resources around the river, their traditional way of fishing, their traditional way of making houses with the geological base. And so all this investigation links to a book with a book that is an almanac. An almanac is a calendar, kind of calendar, but it explains what we can do in each season around the river through the way of and ask themselves how can we re-inhabit this territory. So that's the watershed of the Rhône River and the sources. So I try to illustrate and make also a little writing eco-fiction about all the landscape entities of the territory, and also kind of explanation of all the geological pattern. And so this is the practice of the people around the river that are explained in this book, and that can be shared amongst the territories, in schools, in associations, in libraries and stuff like that. And I don't know, maybe I don't have time to finish, but so just a research project that I'm doing at the moment with the Museum of Natural History of Paris. It's a research around the vision of nature in the part of Paris that is on the north. It's a very urban places with a lot of social, different types of communities. And we made a lot of workshops and works with the people to ask themselves what is your vision of the nature, the future of nature in this very dense and very urban area. And so after this workshop, I did a lot of drawings that can interpret those vision, and that we share with the political people, with the political institution, and to think with different point of view the future of the landscape of the city, and how can the city can be connected with the nature and with also the river Seine, and how can we maybe renaturate some of the rivers that are connected to the Seine, also this kind of question. So that are kind of several patterns of the link between nature and the city, more functional ways. So yes. And so Dâmbovița River, it was so I've been there since Monday to meet people and to meet the river, and so it's a very damaged river, but it was very impressive to see all the energy that is around it, and also when you see it, you don't think that there is life, but when you dig a little bit, there is anthropical ecosystem with plants that goes around the concrete barriers. And so how can we increase this nature? How can we increase this link? That's the question that you're asking about the Dâmbovița. So I think it's really inspiring, and so I'm going to try to illustrate that through some drawings and share with you. Mulțumesc!
And now we have 15 minutes questions for our jury. So, is somebody there with the microphone? Yes. I have one here. Yes. So, please, we have 15 minutes for questions. After this, we have a small break. And after this, the big prizes. Okay, first question. Marina vrea să pună o întrebare, normal. You have to say to whom you put the question.
Yes. Thank you, first of all, for taking the time and doing the effort to share your experience. It was really inspiring, everything that we've heard. I'm curious to learn more about the rights of rivers, and I think there were at least two guests that spoke about it. What are the implications, and what does this paradigm shift make possible? You know, what are why would we need this? I mean, I understand it from a theoretical perspective and agree with it, but what are the practical implications that having this would unblock? Like, why would it be useful for a river to have its own bank account and all this? So just trying to understand what are the arguments for supporting this. Thank you.
I've just had this little experience on the Loire Valley and on the Loire Parliament, but I know that in Europe, in France, there is a movement that is called the natural rights, and I heard some. So I'm not a specialist of jurisdiction and laws, but I learned that, like in some case, there are, like, when you have a fight around like a project that can destroy an ecosystem, some communities ask to specialists of natural rights to help them to present their fight from the point of view of the rights. And so when you have a project that can destroy something, that can, when you have, comment on dit, une lutte locale, local fight and local debate, it can be very useful to have legal arguments that can make a contradiction between the people that are fighting for the river or the forest, and in front of the people that want to use it for industrial thing or urbanistic thing. And so in some cases, it's very useful in case of a fight, but maybe in case of an institution and something more soft, maybe a soft power, maybe Rémi can explain.
En application pratique, c'est très concrètement, on peut imaginer que lorsqu'il y a un schéma directeur ou une décision à prendre qui concerne la rivière, eh bien, il y a un certain nombre de personnes qui vont prendre des décisions, et parmi ces personnes, eh bien, il y a une personne ou deux qu'on appelle les gardiens, et qui, eux, vont s'exprimer uniquement du point de vue de la rivière, du point de vue de l'intérêt de la rivière. C'est quoi sa perspective propre? Et cette personne-là, qui pourrait être, ça pourrait peut-être être Peter pour la Tamise, va dire son point de vue, et elle va participer à la délibération collective. Et ensuite, la décision, elle se prend dans le cadre de droits qui existent déjà. Les différentes personnes qui représentent des intérêts vont prendre part à la décision, il y aura une délibération, mais à un moment donné, la rivière se sera exprimée en son nom propre et en fonction de ses seuls intérêts.
Well, practically, it can be that there is an organization, and for instance, a decision is to be taken, and without that decision committee, there are two people that are the so-called custodians of the river. For instance, Peter could be the custodian of the Thames. And then when the decision is to be taken, the river also has, at some point, has its voice heard. And this is how we can give its rights, we can assert its rights.
C'est quelque chose qui existe aussi déjà d'une certaine façon en matière de justice. En France, il y a un médiateur de la justice, une sorte de haute autorité qui peut s'exprimer sur la façon dont la justice fonctionne en France, qui peut éventuellement être saisie aussi. Mais c'est une autorité indépendante. Et c'est un petit peu ça, la personnalité juridique, c'est une autorité indépendante qui est représentée dans certaines conditions. Il faudrait avoir un certain parcours avec le fleuve, une certaine forme d'attachement, une sorte de notoriété. Peut-être que Théodore pourrait être un gardien dans quelques années, qui va être tiré au sort, pour pas que ce soit complètement... voilà, on peut imaginer qu'il y a 10 ou 20 personnes qui peuvent avoir la qualité de représenter la rivière, parce qu'elles ont le background, comme on dit, et elles vont être tirées au sort, une ou deux, et pendant 4 ans, leur seul job, et c'est un job important, ça va être de prendre part à ces délibérations, à ces décisions. Et pour faire ça, il faut doter de quelques moyens, bien sûr, il faut leur garantir, et ça c'est une inspiration qui vient de Nouvelle-Zélande ou d'Amérique du Sud aussi, il faut leur garantir une forme d'indépendance, de capacité à agir, à ne pas subir de pression. Et puis, il faut leur donner un petit peu de moyens pour que leurs avis puissent se forger en fonction de la connaissance scientifique, qui est très importante, et il y a beaucoup de progrès scientifiques à faire en matière d'écologie encore. Les savoirs locaux, les savoirs vernaculaires, les approches culturelles aussi, qui sont extrêmement importantes. Donc c'est qu'elles puissent s'entourer d'un petit groupe ou de réunir les conditions pour alimenter ces débats.
In France, there is also so this is like in the legal system in general. There is the role of the mediator, a mediator that can work with a high authority, and this mediator should be and is independent. And we try to do something more or less the same for the river. But the custodians, these custodians have to prove that they are attached to the river. They have to have a certain reputation in fighting for the river's rights. For instance, Theodor can become in a few years the custodian of the river. But these custodians are appointed randomly, but randomly from a pool of experts that are that people. I mean, like a pool of experts who have certain knowledge on the river, and then you also have to give these custodians. You have to give them some resources, some legal resources on the one hand, and on the other hand also some scientific background, scientific committee to support them. We drew our inspiration from New Zealand and from Latin America. It's there that they started this kind of movements that give legal entities to the rivers. And then, yes, talking about the resources, and I mentioned some kind of scientific committee. The scientific committee is in fact made up by people who know about the river, but this knowledge can be also vernacular knowledge.
Si je peux juste dire un mot, c'est pas une œuvre d'imagination pure, c'est quelque chose qui existe déjà dans le cadre du droit européen. Ça se passe en Espagne, et c'est une lagune qui s'appelle la Mar Menor, où un dispositif à peu près semblable, avec ses particularités, a été mis en place. Je pense que sur Dâmbovița, vous pourriez aussi inventer quelque chose.
And just to prove that this is not just fiction, that it was actually put in practice, there is a similar mechanism in Spain that's called Mar Menor. And I think you can also implement something similar here.
Yes, we have something in plan. We call it the pentru Dâmbovița. We will start next year. And it's, in my opinion, it's the first step to bring people around the river with and in a way to take a little bit of responsibility about it. But in the same time, it's a result of the debates, because if I understand right, it's just a legal framework where you are not debating for every new project what you can do, what is good to be done. And so you have to decide, look, this is healthy for us, this is healthy for the river, and this is technically possible to be done. And basically, what we've done with this competition, it's exactly we are looking for, how to say, to use your projects for this discussion, for this debate, which start from a more visionary point of view, because what we discovered in our consultation in the last 3, 4, 5, 7 years, I don't know how many years we have, the people, is very hard for them to dream when looking to what is happening right now, because nobody dare to think I can take part of the Kars road and give it to the river. Nobody believe this is possible. We think you can't do anything relevant for the city, for the citizens, without this extra space which Peter also told us. It's a matter of how you bring this space to next to the water. Okay, question?
I just wanted to add some ideas and to come to answer a bit to your ideas. We are working already for a few years regarding the attachment of the people for the river, and we also have some custodians that are designated for the river care. So we are more and more people getting attached to it. And I just wanted to say that in our smaller group, let's say in our partnership, consortium, team, whatever, we are already talking, we are personifying the river, in fact, and it should be a woman, in fact. Yeah, just wanted to tell you this, that things are happening in the back of things, yeah. Thanks.
Any question, please? Another 10 minutes, the last 10 minutes for a question. And after this you can, of course, talk with all of us whenever. Yes, please.
Hello, thank you for both of the presentations. I wanted to get back to the first presentation. There was a slide about an inventory of heritage for the River Loire, and then that resulted in a municipality fund for associations and NGOs or something like that since 2023. And I wanted to ask more details about that. How does that work? How it started? Thank you.
Le point de départ de cette affaire, il y a toujours un point de départ, il y a toujours avant le point de départ. Donc, avant le point de départ, before, il y a un projet urbain, un grand projet urbain qui s'appelle l'île de Nantes. Okay. Un grand projet urbain qui s'appelle l'île de Nantes et c'est un ancien chantier qui est en partie qui est abandonné par l'industrie, et il y a toute une action de reconquête très progressive qui va se faire et qui va expérimenter des nouvelles relations de l'espace public avec le fleuve. Et ensuite, 10 ans plus tard encore, il y a l'idée que on a mieux à faire, on a à se réconcilier avec le fleuve, il faut aller plus loin que ce qui est fait sur l'île de Nantes. C'est très bien pour l'île de Nantes, mais il faut que ça dépasse ça. Et c'est là que la présidente de Nantes, Johanna Roland, lance l'idée de faire un premier grand débat citoyen. Et de ce grand débat citoyen naît des recommandations puis des décisions, et ces décisions, elles sont dans tout le spectre de ce que peut faire une collectivité. Elle peut faire des routes, elle peut faire des espaces publics, elle peut faire de l'environnement, et c'est comme ça, step by step, que ça part.
So the starting point, well, the starting point is always previous to the starting point, namely there is one that's always before the one that we consider as the starting point. And it was another urban project that was called Island of Nantes. In this we tried to reconcile the public space with the river, but just around the island of Nantes. And this was taking place 10 years before we really started this project. And after we did it for the island, we said, okay, it's very nice what we've done in terms of urban design, but now we should try to have a proper reconciliation with the river. And this is when the president of the region, that I also mentioned in my presentation, decided to organize a big debate with the municipality. But then at municipality level, the decisions that could be taken could go like basically across a whole range of decisions. Namely, we could take decisions to build roads, to like everything that a municipality can do. So that was the beginning.